Yes, it's it's very nice to have Ananda on. When the pandemic first started, our youth in temple wasn't having classes, and we were very slow in starting Zoom programs. So I happened to tune into the Denver temple, which had some great classes, and I was really enjoyed Murari, his book that he had to say, and his beautiful singing and kirtan. So I believe he kind of spoke a little bit about Damodara Lila one time when I happened to hear.
Hmm.
So I think since Kartik month is just starting, it would be really nice to have a very Rasika devotee like Anandamari to delve into that. And I was just thinking about this Bangladesh thing is happening. And it was just it occurred to me that George Harrison did a concert for Bangladesh in which, in his song, My Sweet Lord has the Hare Krishna mantra. So here, years later, there's some atrocities in Bangladesh, and devotees are chanting all around the world to try to help the situation in Bangladesh.
Hmm.
So I think that it's always auspicious to have Krishna Katha and chanting the holy names and pastimes, especially so during Kartik. And thank you very much, Mari, for coming on.
Jai.
And I'd like to ask you first how you became a devotee and a little bit about your background before you talk about the topic.
Yeah. Well, I was just reflecting how much I owe you, Prabhu. Actually, I remember the first time I met you was in Govardhan during the Kartik retreat. So it's kind of a nice circle that we're completing right now, meeting again in Kartik. And I remember you were staying in that room above at the top of the castle. This little the ashram that we were staying in at Govardhan is like it's an old castle actually that the devotees have got for Srila Prabhupada and made into a sanctuary for hearing and chanting. And Prabhu was sitting he stayed in a small room upstairs and he was working on his book about Narada Muni. And I remember learning just from observing you what real humility and satisfaction and patience and determination in spiritual life looked like. And so I always kept that inspiration with me to this day. So it's very nice to see you. And I also you helped me get a passport one time in a rush. There was a whole crazy episode of needing a passport to rush to India, and you went to the consulate in Houston and you mailed it to me in New York, and I picked it up on a layover. It was a crazy adventure. So thank you very much, Prabhu. It's very nice to be here with you and everyone else. I in a brief, I met the devotees in 2010. I was going to school at Northern Arizona University, and I met a few devotees who had left they were coming from the San Diego ashram and they were looking to start a center in Northern Arizona where I happened to be going to school, and I happened to meet them doing kirtan one day, and I just thought they were two weird looking guys jamming, and I thought I'd like to jam, and I'm kind of a weird looking guy, so I asked them if I could jam with them, and they readily agreed. Some young college student asking to come join the kirtan. Oh, of course. So they agreed, and I went and got my djembe, and I played with them for a little bit, and I remember reflecting, it wasn't exceptionally musically like good or profound. It was just very deep. And what really stuck with me was speaking to who's now my godbrother, Amritanam, afterwards, and sharing a little bit about kind of where I was at spiritually and what my understanding was, which was essentially an amalgamation of impersonal understanding of kind of, appreciating at least the omnipresence of God. Uh, and this is actually where Shukadeva Goswami starts. So I was, by the mercy of uh, Krishna making arrangements in my life, I had a good starting point. I was appreciating the omnipresence. And he said something about God, and I said, well, yeah, isn't God just everything that we're all a part of? And he said, yes. And when we consider and approach the supreme absolute truth, we have to allow for everything within our conception and everything beyond our conception. And in other words, we can't limit the divine. We can't limit the divine by saying he can't be a person. Just as we can't limit the divine by saying he can't be everything. Actually, he's both. And he was speaking, I realized in hindsight, from Ishopanishad, and it stuck with me. And so I continued going. They had some programs there. And in brief, just the process of chanting and offering prasadam and devotee association and kirtan trumped everything else that I was trying to do in my life. And I decided that I wanted to just immerse myself somehow or another. And I had some crazy plans of my own, but Krishna made an arrangement, an opportunity for me to jump in a van with a few monks that were traveling around the country. And there I was, 2 a.m. on a bus to Chicago from Flagstaff, Arizona. And the rest is history. It was one of the most spontaneous and profound things that I ever did. And it so much was an arrangement by the mercy of the Vaishnavas and by the mercy of Guru and Gauranga, allowing such a person like myself to have some association, have some sangha, to be able to come to a point at which now in my maybe 10th Kartik or so, however many Kartiks I've been able to survive, I have the opportunity to speak on Krishna Katha, the opportunity to say something to glorify this very mysterious and important pastime in our tradition. So I'm thinking, I was wanting, maybe I'll just do a little kirtan. I'll do a short kirtan just to kind of get my own heart cleansed and ready, and just to kind of set the vibration. So I'll just do a short little kirtan with the guitar. Feel free to sing wherever you're at, and sing with your full heart. I'm wondering if there's anyone brand new, or is everyone here fairly familiar? I like Jer. You're running, man. I dig it. Get that Krishna Katha no matter what. That's wonderful.
I think people are fairly not totally new.
Okay, so they have some awareness connection. Okay, so we'll just do a little kirtan. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dishadarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vashari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. All together. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. All together. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. One last time. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
All right, thank you very much, Ru.
Sure. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langaite Girim Yat Kripa Tamahang Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. So recently I've been thinking about and sharing a little bit that, we one of the best things about being Gaudiya Vaishnavas is that we don't need any reason to talk about Krishna. That actually we're allowed, it's actually a prerogative that we can talk about Krishna anytime we want. Really to anyone that we want to. And I remember one of the first times going back to visit my family after being in an ashram situation where it was very common that one would have conversations about Krishna, speak about some philosophy, something we read, something we were reflecting on, something we were struggling with in sadhana. That's in the association of the Vaishnavas, that's the modus operandi. That's what it is. And I remember going and visiting my family, and my family is extremely supportive, extremely loving. But I remember feeling how dry it was, that I didn't have anyone to really talk about Krishna with. Specifically, the sweetness of Krishna. One of my favorite chapters in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is a description that Mahaprabhu is giving to Sanatana Goswami, the opulence and the sweetness of Krishna. Right? It's important that we understand the foundation, the philosophy, the structure of reality. Krishna's Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sani Bishto Matasmitir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. Everything is coming from Krishna, and he's giving all knowledge, all remembrance. He's causing forgetfulness. He is the knower of the Vedas. He's the knower of all that is, anything that is knowledge, any knowledge that we can hope to have, any knowledge that we consciously or unconsciously function under. Anything that is to be known, Krishna is the knower of those things, and he is the conclusion of those things. Right? What is it?
Sarvasya Prabhu.
Hum Sarvasya Prabhavo. Thank you, Prabhu. Hum Sarvasya Prabhavo. Matasmit. Oh man. Krishna is saying, everything's coming from me, both material and spiritual worlds. Everything is emanating from Krishna simply by his breathing as Mahavishnu. Unlimited universes are coming out of his pores. Just a simple exhalation and inhalation causes the annihilation of an unlimited amount of universe, the annihilation and the creation of an unlimited amount of universes. And that person of such opulence, of such stature, of such preeminence, the source, the foundation of all reality, that person has a different priority in this universe and in his own realm. Ramadi Murti Shukalani Amena Tishtam. Right? Just as waves are crashing upon the ocean, just as waves surface on the ocean, the Vedas describe that supreme person who is manifesting and upholding as a side thought. Krishna, he explains to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita that, all of these different things, chapter 10, Krishna gets through a whole chapter of explaining how of all the greatest things, of everything that is great, Krishna is that. Krishna is the greatest of all things. And then he tells Arjuna, and this struck me. I remember the first time reading this struck me. He says, but what is the use of all this detailed information? Simply a fragment of myself. I'm supporting and sustaining this entire universe. It's a side thought. This entire, what to speak of our world, but this entire material creation, what to speak of the unlimited universes, is a side thought of the Supreme Controller. Because his priority is something different. His priority is the bhaktas. It's the treasure that's found in the heart of only the Vaishnavas. It's the treasure that can only be found in the overflowing and melting butter-like heart of the devotees. In this month of Kartik, we are invited to remember that. It's the beginning of the lunar calendar year. It's the new year. And we're invited specifically in meditating upon this Damodar pastime, we're invited to consider the mystery of what it is that Krishna is actually looking for. What is Krishna conquered by? We know his name is Ajita. He's unconquerable. He's Janmad Yasayataha. He's from him, everything is coming. He's a supreme controller, Ishwara, Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha. Right? He's a supreme controller, but he is controlled by something. And this Damodar Lila invites us to consider what that is. Shukadeva Goswami is explaining up into the 9th chapter of the 10th canto the special position of Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, Krishna's parents. Such a special position, it's said, our acharyas give this very nice image for us. Two things. One thing he says, I think it's Rupa Goswami in Padjavali, he shares that Nanda Maharaj, sometimes he calls to Krishna. He says, you please bring me my shoes. And that supreme controller picks up the sandals of King Nanda, puts those chappals on his head, and walks up to his father and hands him those sandals. This Vaishnava poet says, I worship that person. I worship Nanda Maharaj, in whose yard the Supreme Absolute Person is playing and carrying his shoes and doing chores. People will sometimes tell Nanda Maharaj, they say, I think your son's Narayan. He says, what? My son? You haven't ever seen him. He's a rascal. Right? This is the love that Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mata have for Krishna. A love that is very special. And so Parikshit Maharaj is curious, what have they done in order to achieve such a position, such a relationship with that supreme absolute truth, with that supreme person? So much so that he is bound by their affection. And upon that question, Shukadeva Goswami begins to explain this Damodar Lila. So, this pastime specifically happened on this day of Diwali. It's a day of great festivities, so much preparation going into the evening festivities of lighting lamps and candles, and there's a big feast that's being prepared. And on this day specifically, on Mother Yashoda, you could find Mother Yashoda engaging in churning butter and producing a lot of different milk products. And one may ask, well, isn't she the queen? Shouldn't she have some maidservants be doing that? That's natural. There's so many people that would even be willing. They'd say, please, you engage me in your service, my dear Rani. You please engage me in your service? What can I do for you? But no, Mother Yashoda, she was doing it herself. Because it had been going around, there were some rumors going around. Not rumors, they were actual truth. There were complaints being lodged against Krishna. Some of the other elder gopis and other residents of Vrindavan, they were coming to Mother Yashoda almost daily. And they're complaining. They're saying, your son, he's coming over, he's doing a lot of nonsense things. Sometimes he comes and he goes into the area where the small children are sleeping and he pinches them and makes them cry. And what's worse, sometimes actually the main thing that we're coming to complain about is he keeps coming to steal our butter and yogurt and kheer and all the different milk products that we have stored away. He comes and he steals, and he doesn't just only steal, but he makes a big mess. And then if the butter is held too high, if Krishna can't reach it, then he gets upset and he urinates all over the floor. This is very astonishing. Coming from an understanding of opulence, how is the supreme absolute truth? He's urinating on the floor. But it said like this in Krishna book. So all these complaints were coming, and Mother Yashoda's kind of vexed. She's, why is Krishna going? Don't we have enough milk products? Nanda Maharaj has 900,000 cows. Is there not enough milk? Is there not enough butter? Not enough yogurt? She's confused. Why is Krishna going elsewhere? She's thinking it must be that he's just not satisfied. He's not satisfied with what we're providing him. And so then she's thinking, well, I haven't really been directly overseeing the production. Some of the maidservants and some of the, some of our helpers have been doing that. So maybe they're burning the milk. Anyway, they don't know how to do it properly, so I'll have to do it myself. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, and the stubbornness fueled by her Vatsalya Prem, the stubbornness fueled by the parental affection, the overwhelming parental affection that she had for Krishna, took over, and she said, I'll just do it myself. So there she is churning. And it's described she's wearing a yellow saffron sari, beautiful sari, wearing a beautiful broad belt around her broad hips. As she's churning, she's singing, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. She's singing the glories of Krishna's pastimes. And from that churning, her bangles are clinking together. Her bangles are thinking, well, Mother Yashoda is doing kirtan. She doesn't have any kartals, so we should be her kartals. Like that, she's singing and she's churning. And because of the effort, the strenuous effort that she's putting into churning, you can see some beads of pearl-like sweat around her eyebrows. Srila Prabhupada says that for one interested in really cultivating a Vatsalya mood, a parental mood for Krishna, that this meditation, this image of Mother Yashoda is a very fruitful meditation. To think of the great beauty blooming out of this parental love, this this peerless parental love that Mother Yashoda is having. So from this singing, from this churning, it's early in the morning, Krishna's stirred awake. So Krishna comes out and he's rubbing his eyes and he's, adjusting to the light, and he sees Mother Yashoda and he's feeling hungry. So he goes to Mother Yashoda and he very cleverly grabs the churning rod. Because if he were to grab her sari, she could still keep churning. But he wants her attention now. So he grabs the churning rod and stops her from her churning. And Mother Yashoda becomes very pleased by this. Oh, my son's becoming very clever. My little baby's growing up. And she can understand what Krishna wants. So she takes Krishna up on her lap and she begins to breastfeed him. And there he's feeding, and she's looking down at her beautiful baby. Curly locks, tinged bluish from his blackish sham-like skin, gracing gently by his eyes. His cheeks reddened like bimba fruit, the round, buttery face, the beautiful mascara that he had from the day before, beautifully outlining his lotus-like eyes, which extend almost to his ears. Such a beautiful little boy, and she's looking. And all of a sudden, she hears the stove just boiling over, and oh my God, it's the milk. And she gets up and she just puts Krishna down. And she rushes over to the stove. And someone may ask, Jiva Goswami actually poses this question. He said, why didn't Mother Yashoda just take Krishna? She was there feeding Krishna. Why didn't she take Krishna with? And Jiva Goswami says because she had to move very quickly. Prabhupada mentioned something very nice. Sometimes in spiritual life, we have to balance two things. Both things are for service, right? Mother Yashoda is boiling the milk so that she could serve Krishna. Also, she's breastfeeding. She's directly serving Krishna. So two things are for service, but she has to somehow balance both, right? Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. That Krishna will give us the proper intuition when it is that we come to this point where I have to balance two things for service. Especially when we approach Krishna. How do I balance these two things for service? Krishna will give us the intuition, Srila Prabhupada says. So anyway, Mother Yashoda attended to the boiling over milk. And this really upset Krishna. There Krishna was, not fully satisfied from the milk of his mother, still hungry, probably a little cranky because it's early in the morning, abruptly sat down. He's irked. And so he takes a small rock. He finds a piece of a little rock, and he takes that rock and he goes up to the butter pot and he says, "It's you." And he breaks that pot. It says that he broke the pot in such a way very skillfully so that it didn't make a sound, but it broke it near the bottom. So all the yogurt and butter, half-churned butter, starts falling out of the yogurt pot. And Krishna then immediately leaves that place because he knows, when you do something bad, you can sense, oh, I broke the rules. So he knew he broke the rules. So he leaves that place, not without stepping through the half-churned butter with his little buttery fat feet. And he's taking his little fat buttery footprints and he goes into the storage room nearby where there's more yogurt, there's more butter. And he sits a grinding mortar, he puts it under the pot of yogurt and he stands up on there and he's eating yogurt, and the monkeys catch wind that there's a wholesale of butter going on and Krishna's just giving away butter. And so they descend upon that place. Krishna starts feeding the monkeys. The monkeys are eating and Krishna's feeding more. And then finally Krishna's handing the butter to the monkeys, and the monkeys are so full they can't even eat a bite more. And Krishna says, well, this butter is useless. Even the monkeys don't like it. But at that point, Mother Yashoda, she took the milk off the stove and then came back. And immediately she saw this gigantic mess. And she thought, no one else but Krishna. So she smiled, but she realized she also has to do something about it. So it says that she put her finger to her nose, her forefinger to her nose. And she smiled a little bit, but she was thinking, this rascal, this little boy, he needs to learn his lesson. So she grabs a stick. Krishna, meanwhile, he's eating this butter, feeding the monkeys, but all the while looking very, keeping his eyes out because he knows it's coming. And then he sees it. He sees the stick that Mother Yashoda has in her hand. And immediately he leaves that place. He starts running. Mother Yashoda takes off after him. But Mother Yashoda is a bigger woman. She's broad hips, broad chest. And so she's trying to run, but she's not as fast as Krishna. Krishna's running with his little, you can imagine his little chubby thighs, fat little feet. And he's just running through the yard and he's running away because he's running like Jer. Just running. Krishna's running. And Mother Yashoda is trying to catch up. But who can catch Krishna? Because the yogis, they're trying for so many thousands of years. Right? Pantastu koti shatavatsara sampragamya vayora tapi manaso muni pungavanam. So pyasti yat prapada simyana chintya tattve. Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Right? Even the yogis who are drilling, the mystics drilling their respiration, holding their breath, performing so many austerities, the jnanis squeezing and churning their mind in the philosophy, trying to understand. But what do they get? Not even the glimmer, not even the tip of the toe of the lotus feet. Nakila Shruti Mali Ratnamala Dutir Nirajita Parapankajata. That all of the Vedas are, Krishna says, I am the knower of the Vedas, I am the conclusion of the Vedas. And all the Shrutis still, all they can get is a glimmer, the tip of the glimmer of the toe of the holy name. Who can catch Krishna? And every step she's running and her Vatsalya Prem is just overflowing. She's perspiring and sweating, and the flowers in her hair are falling, and the garland breaks, and she's running and running and running, as if with every step, she's saying, I love you. I love you. And that affection is knocking upon Krishna's heart. It's pulling Krishna's heart. It's slowing. It's like a drug. It's slowing Krishna down. And finally, Mother Yashoda captures him. To speak of these yogis who cannot capture Krishna, Mother Yashoda caught Krishna. What to speak of catching him? She scolded him. She said, you rascal! What are you doing? Breaking this butter, stealing the butter? You Vanara Bandhu, she calls him. Vanara Bandhu, you friend of the monkeys. What are you doing? Breaking the butter, stealing the butter, running all over the place. She's exasperated. You know, when your child does something bad and then they run away and she says, come on, stop being like this. Stop being a wild animal. You friend of the monkey. She chastises him. What to speak of catching him, of chastising him? She binds him up. Krishna is thinking. He's seeing Mother Yashoda and she's very upset. And he sees her stick. She's never hit him before, but she sees this stick, or he sees rather this stick. And he starts to shake. He starts to shake and he's crying and he's rubbing his eyes and he's crying more, and the mascara on his eyes is just all over his face and he's looking like a mess. And Mother Yashoda is singing, my son is very afraid right now. And she thinks to herself, I don't want him to run off into the forest. You know, if he gets too scared, he'll run away maybe into the forest. So she throws the stick down, but she says something has to be done. They have to somehow or another really teach him that this is not something that we do. We don't break pots. We don't steal. We don't steal yogurt. We don't steal butter. Otherwise, what will become of him? If he, grows up and he becomes a thief, what kind of mother will I be? So she decides, well, he was standing on that grinding mortar. So she considered that grinding mortar, he was an accomplice. So she takes that grinding mortar, she gets some rope, and she brings Krishna over and she's going to tie him up. She's going to tie him to this grinding mortar. Then you're going to learn. Then you're going to learn that we don't steal. You're going to learn that we don't just run around and break things. You're going to learn your lesson. So she takes that rope and she brings it around and brings it. And it's just 2 fingers too short. So she thinks, okay, I need more rope. So she goes and she grabs some more rope and she ties it up and she brings it around. She's about to bring it around to his waist and it's 2 fingers too short. She looks around. What is going on? She grabs some more rope. She connects that rope. She ties that rope and it's still 2 fingers. How can you contain someone with no limit? With no inside, with no outside. How can you contain that person? Hari Parshad Prabhu, he quotes often, and he's done many translations of a great Vaishnava poet, Hari Sari, a medieval Vaishnava poet. And this medieval Vaishnava poet has expanded upon this pastime, and he shares how, because when Krishna, he poses the question, if someone is liberated, how can they put anyone in bondage? Right? If you meet a liberated person, how are they going to put you in bondage? Actually, you meet a liberated person, they'll free you from bondage. Right? So the moment that Krishna cast his glance upon that rope became liberated. Right? In this Damodara Astakam we sing, Namo Radhikaya Twaddiya Priyaya Namo Untitled Lila Devaya Tubhyam. He offers his obeisances to the rope. Why? Because this rope is a liberated person. So the rope could not bind Krishna. What to speak of Krishna being unlimited, being, uncontainable. Right? That rope could not bind Krishna because that rope itself was also liberated. So no matter how much rope she brought, other gopis by that time, they were coming, they were bringing more and more rope. This rope was hundreds and hundreds of feet long. And no matter what they did, they brought it around, they tried, and it was 2 fingers too short. Mother Yashoda is flabbergasted. She's beside herself. What is happening? The other gopis are laughing, they're rolling, they see, try this rope, try this rope. Nothing's working. Krishna sees Mother Yashoda's Vatsalya stubbornness, the stubbornness of her Vatsalya prema. He sees the perspiration again coming around her forehead and the effort and the earnestness, and she's just, with so much love, wanting to just do this for her son. It's only out of love. Krishna sees that he's captured. The unconquerable captured. And when Mother Yashoda brings that rope around, finally it knots. And there he is, bound up. Damodar. So she goes, she starts to attend to some of her household chores. But this pastime, before we go forward, is something very special. Every day in Kartika, we're offering some candle. And we do circles as we offer the candle. And a prayer that we could have is that, "Oh Krishna, let me also be bound up by you. Let me somehow or other develop the type of affection that will bind you, that will bind me. Ami tu tomara tumi to amare." Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in Atmani Vedana, "I am yours and you are mine. Beyond this, I know nothing else." Krishna is not captured by anyone, by anything. He is simply captured by the affection of his devotees. The pure prema. And it's that flavor that supreme person is searching for. That unique and special quality of prema that every living entity has, and no living entity is alike. That unique offering of our prema for Krishna. So Krishna is looking for that, and when he feels that, when he sees that, he's captured. So Mother Yashoda is tending to other household chores, thinking, "I've captured the thief, he'll learn his lesson, I'll come back later." And meanwhile, Krishna's friends are looking at him. They've come out now, they've seen the whole drama unfold. They're normally used to, in the morning time they get together and they play, but now they come and they see their friend. He's bound up. He's tied up. They start laughing and snickering. And they start joking and pointing and they say, "Damodar." They start poking fun that you're Damodar. Right? You're Damodar 2 reasons. Why? Because not only so much you've been bound by your belly. You go and you're forced by this lust for food. You go and you steal butter, and now you've been captured. Even though they're also stealing butter with him, but now they're in the higher position because now they can point fun at him. So they call him Damodar for 2 reasons. One, you're just bound up by your stomach, bound up by the urge to eat, and therefore you go around, you steal all this butter, and now because of those crimes, as Damodar, now you're actually Damodar. You're also bound by this rope. So they're poking fun at Krishna, and Krishna is becoming a little bit, "Hey, don't make fun of me." So I'm realizing that there's this pastime is broken up into 2 chapters for a reason, because now there's a whole nother story that comes after this. And it's the story of Nalakuver and Manigriva, who were later delivered by Krishna, understanding the promise of his devotee Narada Muni, that these two persons who were absorbed and contaminated by wealth and opulence and had become arrogant because of that, decided to create some offense towards a great sage. And Narada Muni, that sage, cursed them. But the benediction of the pure devotee is so powerful that not only were they cursed to stand as trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj's house, but then they were delivered personally by Krishna, who then crawled towards those 2 trees, dragging that gigantic mortar, and knocked down these 2 Arjuna trees. And those persons that came out of those trees, Nalaguvera and Manigriva, they came out of those trees, offered beautiful prayers, recognized that they still had some loose ends to tie up in the heavenly realms, prayed that they can go back, finish up business, practice sadhana. And what was their opportunity? We hear from Gopal Champu that these 2 persons became Snigdhakanta and Madhukanta, professional reciters of Krishna's pastimes. They came back and they sit day after day again in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj in front of all the Brajbasis, and while Krishna is out herding the cows, these 2 boys, Snigdhakanta and Madhukanta, who were formerly Nalagriva and Manigriva and Nalakuvara, speak the glorious pastimes of the Lord. So that in and of itself is a whole nother story, but I wanted to pay homage to that by just giving kind of a brief overview. So we'll end there, and I want to invite, just if there's any reflections, any questions or clarifications or anything that you'd like to contribute.
I'm watching Jair running the whole time you're talking, like he's searching for Krishna.
He's looking.
I'd like to ask him if he's found Krishna during your talk. Can you say something, Jair?
Oh, we can't hear you. No.
Okay, here I think he's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Is it better?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
All right. I was saying that the only reason, or better yet, the origin of all this energy is that very Krishna that you speak of. I couldn't run like this before. I used to be a chubby guy, but once I got a small taste, everything followed after that, especially this. So thank you very much for that beautiful talk and that beautiful, beautiful voice of yours. It's very soothing when you sing, when you give a lecture. Please don't stop. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yeah. Any reflections? A lot of times, one of the things I started by saying that we have full permission anytime we want to speak about Krishna. It means we don't need a philosophical reason. We don't even need a festival. We can just talk about Krishna's pastimes, and that's okay. Actually, it's more than okay. It's recommended. But it just so happens that it's Kartik, and that we have this opportunity to focus in and glorify a specific pastime of the Lord. And a lot of times, just by hearing, there's an art in just hearing, being able to hear and allow our hearts to become attracted. That's what Krishna comes to do. He performs these pastimes in Vrindavan, in planet Earth, Balma Vrindavan, in order to attract our hearts, attract our minds. Because otherwise my mind is going to be attracted by so many other things. Anyway, I'm looking for something to be attracted to. But if I put myself in front of the sound vibration of Krishna's pastimes, his form, his qualities, and his holy name on a daily basis, as much as possible, then my heart becomes more and more attracted to that real place, to the real truth, to the real reality. So, anyway, just some extra thoughts, but yeah, I'd love to hear any reflections from you all.
Hey, can you say anything about the milk? This point of view of the milk on the pot that was boiling over.
Yeah, I've heard it described, and I was looking through the different commentaries of 10th Canto, and it wasn't there, and it may be somewhere else. In terms of kind of the milk's point of view, thinking that, if Krishna becomes fully satisfied by Mother Yashoda's breast milk, which is literally just liquid prema, milk's thinking, what will I do? What will we have anything to offer? So he thought like that, feeling a bit dejected. I've heard this described. It's also said that Mother Yashoda was thinking she started to attend to the milk because another reason is that everything in Vrindavan, the residents of Vrindavan have given everything for Krishna, their life, their wealth, their minds, their bodies, their souls, everything. Manasa deho geho jo kichu mora. Right, my mind, my body, my family, my everything that I own, it's all you. Nanda Kishora. Right? I'm giving all these things, placing it at your feet. So she recognizing that this is the mood of the Brajbasis, she's already, she's thinking this milk belongs to Krishna, because that milk specifically, I forgot to mention, it was out of the 900,000 cows, Mother Yashoda found about 8 specific cows that give very fragrant, very tasty milk. And she personally took those cows to very specific pastures and had them eat those specific grasses so that their milk was the best and most flavorful. So this is very special milk. So she's thinking, all of this belongs to Krishna. I'm doing this to please Krishna and satisfy Krishna. I don't want Krishna, he's a young boy. He doesn't know how to take care of his wealth. So therefore, I have to manage this. I have to take care of this wealth. So therefore, she put Krishna down and she ran to attend to the milk. So that's a little bit more about the milk. I want to find the direct reference as to where the milk's perspective was coming from, because I haven't seen that. I've just heard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That from Arnika, it says, what is the significance of the 2 fingers?
Oh, the 2 fingers. Yeah. So these 2 fingers, said by our acharyas, that it's representing, first of all, our contribution. What am I bringing? A friend of mine, he was sharing that as we approach Kartik, many of us maybe are making vows, and he was suggesting a nice meditation for when we make vows is that, because another name of Kartik, and this is a whole another aspect of this Damodara Lila that we didn't even touch, but just as we have Vasudev, and the son of Vasudev is Vasudev, right? So we have Kirtida, and the daughter of Kirtida is Kartika. So Kartik is literally a name of Srimati Radharani. And so this is her month. And therefore, in the end of Damodarastakam, Namo Radhikaya Twadya Priyaya. Again, he's offering prayers to the rope, but also offering prayers to Srimati Radharani. Because there's another pastime of Radharani binding up Krishna, and he becomes Damodar. It's said that the Malika flowers are like these jasmine flowers that have very long stems. And the gopis, Braja gopis, are so expert that they can take those flowers and they can sew them together just with the flowers, and they can make garlands without string. Right? So sometimes, as kids, we may say, you're so weak, you couldn't fight yourself out of a wet paper bag. Right? So Krishna is so overcome by love, when Radharani puts that Malika garland, that garland without a string, he could not even break free from that. He couldn't even break free from a garland without string. He was that bound up. So this month is Kartik. This month is Radharani's month. Because Radharani, just as is in this pastime of Mother Yashoda and Krishna, demonstrating how Krishna is bound up by the affection, by the love of the devotees. Krishna is bound by Radharani's affection. And so what is Radharani's mood when we're approaching Kartik and we're approaching making a vow? Radharani's mood is selfless service, just giving. So we can approach Krishna as what is my contribution? I'm not just going to ask for something. When I enter into prayer, I'm not just going to ask for something. Let me offer some honesty. Let me offer some glorification. Let me offer myself. So that first finger is our endeavor. It's our contribution. It's what am I giving to Krishna? My effort, my attention. When I sit down to my japa, am I thinking, what's happening after this? Am I multitasking? I'm so guilty of this, multitasking during japa. Thinking, what am I going to do after? But what if I just sat down and just gave everything to Krishna? I'm not concerned what's happening after. Right? This is the first finger. It's my contribution. And the second finger is the ingredient that makes it happen, that makes it connect. It's Krishna's grace. It's his Kripa Shakti. Right? His Kripa Shakti is more powerful than he himself. Because it's that Kripa Shakti that allows Krishna to be bound up. So these two fingers are representing like this, that it was always too short because it was Mother Yashoda's endeavor. But until Krishna was attracted, until his mercy was attracted, those ropes could not meet. And so how do we attract Krishna's mercy? By our sincere longing, by our honesty, by our contribution. That special and unique thing that Krishna will become attracted to come down and want to taste, because he can't find that anywhere else. And that's why we have to give it to him freely. So these are the two fingers, and there's, anyway, all of these things are annals and annals of books and books and books could be said about what's going on in this pastime, and our acharyas speak. So I encourage everyone here, especially during this month of Kartik, meditating not only on this pastime, I mean, meditating on this pastime for sure. Prabhupada gives beautiful purports on this whole pastime, and I have there's a version that I have it has Prabhupada's purports of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, purports of Jiva Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, and it's just it's like a waterfall of insight and nectar. But just taking more time to hear about Krishna and hear about Krishna's activities and hear about Krishna's qualities. And we have that opportunity to really cultivate nice habits during this month of Kartik that will then carry us into this next year. So.
Hare Krishna, I just wanted to say just one last thing.
Yeah.
In the beginning, when I was first coming into association, I was like in a certain way forcing myself to come to these. And it was like forcing myself in the beginning, knowing that little by little, it wouldn't be like a forceful thing.
Yeah.
You can put a price on a lot of things, especially material things. But one thing you can't put a price on is these intangible relationships. You can't, no matter how much money you have, you can't buy a relationship with a certain person. And if you do, it's superficial, it's not genuine.
Yeah.
But more and more, I find myself longing for this type of, does that make sense? Without forcing myself at all.
Yeah.
The more that happens, the more fruitful my life in general becomes. Because I'm making good money now, and I find that I'm not satisfied by this.
Yeah.
I ask it. And this is, I just wanted to share that.
Yeah.
This is priceless.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for sharing that. And
Thank you.
I think the important thing that is sticking out for me of what you're sharing is the way in which relationship is very organic. that we're meant to become attracted to Krishna. That love is not forced, just as Krishna could not be forcibly bound up. The living entity cannot be. Krishna is not interested in forcibly dragging us. Krishna is very eager, and there's an urgency in Krishna's wanting to be with us and taste that specific flavor of prema that actually only we have. That only we have. There's no other jiva in all of the universe. Vaisheshika, there's my Guru Maharaj's name, Vaisheshika, and Srila Prabhupada gave him this name because actually every atom within the universe is unique. This is another understanding of the word Vaisheshika. Specifically, every jiva in the world is unique. That means that prema, that jiva can receive and then offer to Krishna. Right? We receive through hearing from those that have prema. And then it fructifies in our heart. And we can offer that back to Krishna's lotus feet. And that specific flavor Krishna is interested in. And he's urgent about it. But he won't force us. And so allowing ourselves and putting ourselves in position to become attracted. That let me become attracted more and more. And wherever I'm at right now, let me offer that thing. Let me offer that thing. The best thing that I have, the position that I'm in right now, let me offer that to Krishna. Right. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, and I appreciate this reflection that you wanted the attraction to become organic, and you're realizing that in other endeavors in your life, there's not actual deep satisfaction, fulfillment. So, we need to take care of the necessities of our material situation and circumstance, and also to understand that we're being invited beyond our circumstance, and that the self beyond circumstance needs something greater. And the more and more we allow that to become, the more and more we allow that to grow, and that we water that in our heart, the more that we'll be drawn into that mystery. So thank you. Any other reflections or thoughts or anything?
Hare Krishna, this is Nimai Sundari Neelam Khera. I
Hare
came late to join, so I don't know if this Damodara Ashtakam had anybody sung up one or two verses already, then I cannot say it. But if not, may I request you to sing at least just one or two verses?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, we quoted from the end, but we can sing one verse or so. Maybe we could pull up the lyrics of the first two, or we'll sing the first verse so that everyone can follow along. Just figuring it out on the guitar, sorry. Namamishvaram Sachiranandarupam Lasad Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashodabiolukala Tavamanam Padam Drishtamantyantatolrutyakopya. To the Supreme Controller, who possesses an eternal form of blissful knowledge, whose glistening earrings swing to and fro, who manifested himself in Gokul, and who stole the butter that the gopis kept hanging from the rafters in the storerooms. He then quickly jumped up and ran in retreat in fear of Mother Yashoda, but was ultimately caught. To that Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, I offer my humble obeisances. Rundantam muhur netra yugmam rajantam kadam buja yugme nasantaka netram muhu swashakam patirekam kakanta stita graivam damodaram bhaktiparam. Upon seeing his mother's whipping stick, he cried and rubbed his eyes again and again. With his two lotus hands, his eyes were fearful and his breathing quick. And his mother showed a bound his belly with ropes. He shivered in fright and his pearl necklace shook. To this Supreme Lord Sri Damodar I offer my humble obeisance. Iti drikswa lila bir Ananda kunde Swagosham nimanjantam Akyapayantam Tadi eshitage shubhaktar jitatvam Puna prematastam satavritti vande. Those super excellent pastimes of Lord Krishna's babyhood drown the inhabitants of Gokul in pools of ecstasy. To the devotees who are attracted only to his majestic aspect of Narayan and Vaikuntha, the Lord herein reveals, I am conquered and overwhelmed by pure loving devotion. To the Supreme Lord Damodar, my obeisances hundreds and hundreds of times. Varam deva moksham na moksham vadhimba nachanyam rineham varisharapiha idam teva punata gopalapalam sada me manasya virastam kimande. O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for liberation, nor eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon. My only prayer is that your childhood pastimes may constantly appear in my mind. O Lord, I do not even want to know your feature of Paramatma. I simply wish that your childhood pastimes may ever be enacted in my heart. Idam te mukambojam antyantanila Vritam kuntalai snigdha raktaischa gopya Muhushtum bitam bimba raktadaram me Manasya virastam alam lakshalabhe. O Lord, the cheeks of your blackish lotus face, which is encircled by locks of curling hair, have become reddened like bimba fruit due to Mother Yashoda's kisses. What more can I describe than this? Millions of opulences are of no use to me, but may this vision constantly remain in my mind. Namo Deva Damodar Ananta Vishnu Prasiddha Prabodhuka Jalabdhi Magnam Kripa Drishti Vrishati Dinam Bhatanu Brihanesha Mamagyam Edyakshidrisha. O unlimited Vishnu, O Master, O Lord, be pleased upon me. I am drowning in an ocean of sorrow and am almost like a dead man. Please shower the rain of mercy on me, uplift me and protect me with your nectarian vision. Kuverat majau badha mutyaiva yadva tvaya mochitao bhakti bhajau kritau cha tata prema bhaktim swakame prayacha namokshe graho mesti damodarera. O Lord Damodar, in your form as a baby, Mother Yashoda bound you to a grinding stone with a rope for tying cows. You then freed the sons of Kuvera and Manigriva and Nala Kuvera, who were cursed to stand as trees, and you gave them the chance to become your devotees. Please bless me in the same way. I have no desire for liberation into your effulgence. Namaste stu damne spuradipti damne Tvadiyodarayata Vishvasya Dame Namoradikaya Tvadiya Priyaya Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam. O Lord, the entire universe was created by Lord Brahma, who was born from your abdomen, which was bound with a rope by Mother Yashoda. To this rope I offer my humble obeisances. I offer my obeisances to your most beloved Srimati Radharani and to your unlimited pastimes.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very, very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Okay.
you. That was so beautiful.
Hare Krishna.
Goosebumps.
Yes,
Hare
thank
Krishna.
you very much.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Sa-
dear.
Sadhu, sadhu.
It's very great privilege to be here with you all, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to glorify the Lord in this month of Kartik. So much benefit in just speaking about the Lord and hearing about the Lord. Anything that we can do. There's so much waiting for us that Srimati Radharani is really wanting to give us. And this month of Kartik is all for that. So thank you for the opportunity.
Hare Krishna.